Welcome to the Megacast. I'm Tyler Kieft, welcoming you to our live, local, 5 days a week TV, radio, and streaming show looking into all things Michigan. Today, we'll be talking to a number of different people about interesting topics impacting you in Oakland County, in Wayne County, in Kent County, in the northern Lower Peninsula, in the Upper Peninsula, and all corners of the Great Lakes State. You can keep up to date on everything happening on the program by visiting our website at civiccentertv.com/megacast, as well as our local news page for all your top headlines each and every day. Now, we're going to start doing things a little bit differently here. You'll notice this week that we are now a 1-hour program, as we've been 2 hours since the beginning of this show. Back in March of 2020, just about a week before Governor Gretchen Whitmer ordered the shutdown of regular life in the state of Michigan due to COVID-19, we began doing a daily 2-hour program in the mornings called the Megacast. It began with Dave Scott and West Bloomfield Township Deputy Police Chief Kurt Lawson in our former studio in a pretty cramped area that just got us enough to be 6 feet apart in our studio. Now we're in a TV studio doing this show, and as we have been for 2.5 years, and changing things up a little bit to make it a better quality program for you, to keep you updated on everything that you need to know here in the state of Michigan. Do it at a pace that works best for you and is much more convenient to our audience. We're glad to do that for you, and we look forward to this journey now being 1 hour a day, each and every day, on our TV, radio, and streaming network all across the great state of Michigan. Let's kick off today's program, as you always do, going through our top headlines making news at civiccentertv.com on our local news page. Our top story today is from Sarah Raza at the Detroit Free Press. Here's what you need to know about a water main break in Oakland County that occurred over the weekend and impacted over 1 million people. A water main break over the weekend left over 1 million Michiganders in several communities in need to boil their water, to consume water, to drink, to bathe, and for other uses. At this time, several of those communities, including Pontiac, have been relieved of this need. However, the boil water advisory remains in place for 7 communities as of this time. Those communities include Elmont, Bruce Township, Birchville Township, Imlay City, Rochester, Shelby Township, and Washington Township. It is suggested that residents in these affected areas boil their water for 1 minute and then let it sit and cool before they use it. We'll keep you updated with more information as the story develops. Also making headlines on our local news page at civiccentertv.com from Sarah Rahal at the Detroit News. A wildfire over the weekend on Isle Royale has closed campgrounds on the acclaimed tourist site after fire began in the 3-mile campground on Saturday. The 11-acre spanning wildfire was initially estimated to be just 5 acres in total and grew to that 11-acre span it's currently at by Sunday, just over the course of a day. In total, the entire park spans 132,018 acres. The following trails at this time remain closed until cleared by Park Service for safety purposes. Mount Ojibwe Trail, Lane Cove Trail, and Campground are also closed. Of course, as we mentioned, the 3-mile campground and dock are closed. That's where the fire was estimated to have begun. Greenstone Ridge Trail from the Daisy Farm Trail Junction east to the Tobin Duncan Portage Trail Junction are closed, as well as Rock Harbor Trail between Daisy Farm Campground and Rock Harbor. Additionally, Mount Franklin, Tobin Harbor, Susie's Cave trails are all closed as well at this time. You can help with the response as well as the investigation into these wildfires by calling or texting the tip line at 888-653-0009. Again, that calling and texting line for tips leading into either helping the investigation or helping report more information as this wildfire continues on Isle Royale. 888-653-0009. You can also go to the National Park Service website at go.nps.gov/submit-a-tip. go.nps.gov/submit-a-tip or email nps_isb@nps.gov, and all that information on how you can get in contact with the National Park Service and submit any tips or other information that you may have that will help them A, address this issue, and B, investigate this wildfire on Isle Royale. You can find in this article from Sarah Rahal on the Detroit News on our website, civiccentertv.com/local-news. Additionally, making headlines on our local news page from MLive's John Tunison, truly a mammoth of a story, as Mastodon Bones were located over the weekend around 22 Mile Road in Kent County. A crew was scheduled scheduled to install a culvert when they encountered the large bone initially believed to belong to a dinosaur. At this time, the culvert replacement project is suspended pending the archaeological dig for potentially more prehistoric bones. The bones will likely be donated to the Grand Rapids Public Museum. Finally, making headlines on CivicCenterTV.com from Bridge, Michigan's Paula Gardner, changes at rural airports have residents concerned that their airline trips may be significantly more costly of an investment. 5 of Michigan's smallest airports learned recently that SkyWest, a regional carrier that serves Delta Airlines, plans to axe direct flights from these airports come September. That means longer drives, commuting to other commuter flight airports such as Flint or others, and an even costlier flying experience for those flying usually at Valpina, Sault Ste. Marie, Escanaba, Iron Mountain, and Pellston. SkyWest is blaming these changes on a pilot shortage, and local airport officials expressed disappointment as many of these flights were regularly well populated. You can read that full article with even more news and information on this issue and more information on why this is going to be such a costly and very highly effective issue, particularly in these smaller airport regions for these residents just trying to get from point A to point B, just trying to get to the Detroit Metro Airport or other major metropolitan airports to get where they need to go from their local community airport, by reading this article from Paula Gardner at Bridge, Michigan on our website, CivicCenterTV.com, on our local news page. While you're there, click through to all these articles, read them in full, read their supporting materials, as well as other articles from these journalistic outlets. And if you have the means to do so, as always, we encourage you to subscribe to these publications and support journalism in your local area. We have a great program ahead on this Monday edition of the Megacast. Stay tuned. When we come back, we'll be streaming while we also talk about streams. This is the Megacast.
Connect with local leaders, philanthropists, and more. The Greater West Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce presents the 2022 Leadership Breakfast. Join the Chamber for a morning of insight with guest speaker Laura Graneman, with the whole event emceed by Fox 2 News anchor Roop Raj. Join your local businesses at the Wabeat Country Club September 13th at 8:30 a.m. Order your tickets by September 6th at westbloomfieldchamber.com/breakfast. We'll see you there.
Let's whoop it up for these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the cheering going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. In the face of COVID-19, staying healthy is important. And now the same is true as we face the flu. Influenza has the potential to infect millions, putting lives and the healthcare system at risk. Fortunately, it's easy to protect yourself. The flu vaccine is safe and effective, and with COVID-19 still spreading, it's essential. To see how you can hit this virus head-on, visit michigan.gov/flu. Now that the vaccine is available for children 5 and up, why do you recommend it?
Kids are part of the community and they can spread COVID.
We're seeing both healthy children getting sick from the virus as well as children with underlying health conditions.
They can easily bring the virus home to other people that are vulnerable and make them sick as well.
This vaccine can change that and keep children safe.
It's essential that your children get vaccinated to protect them, to protect your families, and to protect those in the community around you.
Let's relish these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Can I ask you a question? Why do you want to get the COVID-19 vaccine?
I don't like getting sick. The virus will die. It will be easy to not catch it. Keep my family safe and keep playing soccer. Because I love being vaccinated.
What's your hope for everyone?
I hope everybody gets the vaccine to keep safe and strong. Be like happy, having fun everywhere. Everyone stay safe and hope you get the vaccine.
Welcome back to the Megacast, our live daily 1-hour TV, radio, and streaming show about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. Learn more about the program by visiting our website on civiccentertv.com. On our Megacast page, civiccentertv.com/Megacast. You'll find information on our entire network of stations, including our co-flagship at the statewide level, My Michigan TV. You can find more info on them at mymytv.com, mymytv.com, where you can watch us live online, as well as find out how you can watch us live at home on your smart TV, on their free smart TV app, and on the road anywhere in Michigan, outside of Michigan, and all throughout the world on the free My Michigan TV app, streaming on your smartphone for free. More information, again, mymytv.com. Well, of course, here in Michigan, we adore the Great Lakes, and we adore spending time on our local lakes, the inland lakes. And joining us now are two individuals. We're doing their part to help keep these lakes healthy, clean, and safe for each and every one of us, and of course, for the health of these waterways in Michigan. Joining us now on the program is Julia Kirkwood, the Senior Environmental Quality Analyst at the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy, or EAGLE, as well as Joe Latimore. Joe Latimore is a lake and stream specialist at Michigan State University. Julia, Dr. Latimore, thank you both for being with us today.
Welcome. Thanks for having us.
Appreciate having you on. So both of you are members of the Michigan Inland Lakes Partnership. I'll start with you, Dr. Latimore. Can you tell us a little bit about the Michigan Inland Lakes Partnership and what your organization does to protect and inform the communities about the inland lakes?
Sure, thanks. We're happy to share about the Michigan Inland Lakes Partnership. This is a group that kind of runs under the radar, but it's a partnership involving a lot of organizations your viewers probably know and are aware of, like Michigan State University, where I'm from, the Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy, where Julia comes from, also the Michigan Department of Natural Resources, and about a dozen other partner organizations that all have a share in protecting Michigan's inland lakes. And so we do a lot of different programs together. It's a great opportunity for us all to, listen to one another and meet up and talk about what our shared priorities are for protecting Michigan's lakes. And we've been doing this for what's pushing up to about 20 years now.
So what we do in our communities affects our inland lakes and the overall health of those lakes, which of course affects different biomes and different habitats in those lakes as well. And that has far-reaching environmental impacts right here in our local communities. So Julia, and we've had some issues recently with some environmental issues that have affected some of our waterways. We won't get into the specifics of that as it's an ongoing investigation. But it brings up the topic when an issue like that arises, when there is something that happens in the community, whether it be natural or whether it be man-made or man-produced, and there is something that affects our inland lakes, how do organizations like yours at EAGLE and then partnerships like the Michigan Inland Lakes Partnership work together to inform the public about what's going on and how it's affecting their local waterways?
Well, it's going to depend on what the issue is. There are opportunities in particular, like one other hot topic would be like harmful algal blooms. People can call the district offices and ask, to talk to someone about what's happening with their lakes. There are potential monitoring opportunities as well. And really getting at, it's really important that people are engaged initially to know that something maybe is changing, something isn't natural. That can include like long-term monitoring, being engaged in their lake associations or their watershed associations in order to stay in tune with things. So that's, the pre stuff to really understand that. And then as part of like with the partnership, in particular, the Inland Lakes Partnership, and then another partnership we work with is our Natural Shoreline Partnership too. So what we do is we create educational programs that are geared towards engaging people in being able to be that engaged volunteer at the local level, being more informed on what the issues are, what some of the challenges are, and then also how to implement some actions to help prevent some things and actually protect things. And that is one of the goals of our Inland Lake Convention that we started in 2016 now. I think it goes every other year, and that convention focuses on a variety of different topics. It's scheduled for September 14th through 16th of 2022. And it's a variety of topics, and that is also geared towards general public, lake association, practitioners, as well as professionals. There's even technical topics and topics that help people engage at the local level too.
We're joined by Julia Kirkwood, Senior Environmental Quality Analyst at the Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, or EGLE, at the state level, as well as Dr. Joe Latimore, from a lake and stream specialist at Michigan State University, joining us on the Megacast. You can always find more information on michigan.gov on all the work that's happening at the state level regarding our inland lakes, streams, and other waterways as well. So let's go back to you, Dr. Latimore. At the local level, we know what happens at the statewide level at the Great Lakes, some of the pollutants and other risk factors that affect the Great Lakes, whether it be boating, whether it be littering. There's so many other factors that go into that as well, but particularly for our inland lakes, which make up the vast majority of our waterways locally here in the state of Michigan. What are some of the greatest threats on a community level that people should be aware of and working toward avoiding becoming factors in their local inland lakes?
Well, one of the areas that I work in a great deal is that of aquatic invasive species. And I'm sure, all of your viewers are aware of some of the big ones like zebra mussels that we know have moved into a lot of our inland lakes. And that's something that each and every one of us that lives near or recreates on an inland lake can take part in helping protect our lakes from. And the steps that you need to take are really pretty easy. One of the easiest ways for a non-native invasive species to make its way into our lakes and cause damage is by hitchhiking and catching a ride on our boats and our trailers and our other gear that we bring when we come out to enjoy our lakes, whether it's fishing or swimming and so forth. And so we like to remind folks to always clean your gear, drain any water that might be contained in it, like if you have a bait bucket or a live well on your boat, and then let your gear dry out sun for a while, because that's really going to help remove or kill any zebra mussels or invasive plants or other critters that don't belong in our lakes from making their way in, and then from hopping their way from one lake to another as we travel from one lake to another. So that's one of the big issues that we want to make sure people help out with, because it's pretty easy. You just have to remember to do it.
And then, Julia, when these invasive species do become a factor in our inland lakes and in other waterways as well, what action can be taken beyond the safety precautions that Dr. Latimore just put forth, or at least from the state level, what is done to then combat these invasive species? Because they spread quickly, they affect our waterways, they can move from waterway to waterway if people don't take the precautions that Dr. Latimore just discussed. What can the state then do and other organizations locally do to potentially rid themselves of these invasive species?
Well, I would first direct people to the Michigan Invasive Species Network, and there are local cooperative working groups called their CISMA's acronym is the Cooperative Invasive Species Networks around in different counties. And each of those areas are focusing on assistance for different types of invasive species. One is working on what kinds of prevention is important. The other is what kind of treatment options that are specific to the invasive species. Knowing what the regulations are, knowing what the process are, is being informed at that level as well. And the Michigan Invasive Species Network has a lot of information specifically to understanding what types of invasive species might be in your area, and then potential treatment options as well.
We're joined by Julia Kirkwood from Michigan's Department of EGLE, as well as Dr. Joe Latimore from Michigan State University on Megacast, talking about our inland lakes. We have a special event coming up in September. September 14th through the 16th is the Michigan Inland Lakes Partnership's virtual convention. Dr. Latimore, can you tell us a little bit about what will happen at that virtual seminar, what people can learn, and how people can participate, or who can?
Sure. So the convention, we're thrilled about it. We do this every other year, as Julia mentioned, and it's a way for people to learn about what's going on in our inland lakes, what research is happening, things they can do locally to help protect our lakes. And it's open to anyone who's interested. The registration is online at the website I'm sure you'll share. And it's $60 to register, and that includes all 3 days of content. It will all be recorded. So if you can't make like, a certain presentation that you're really interested in seeing, you can always go back and see the recording later. Our full agenda is available on that website. And I mentioned it's a $60 registration fee, but if someone is a student, it's only $15 for all 3 days of content and that's students at all levels from, graduate school, college, all the way down to grade school. So we hope to get a lot of participation. We're going to have multiple sessions going on at the same time, all 3 days, on topics as broad as fisheries management, invasive species like we just talked about, how to communicate about the value of lakes. We're going to learn about the economic value of inland lakes to Michigan's economy. We're going to learn about wild rice, a really important native plant in Michigan's inland lakes, steps for restoring lakes that may be damaged, and also steps for protecting lakes that are still in beautiful condition, which so many of our lakes already are.
Well, we appreciate both of you coming on again. The Michigan Inland Lakes Partnership's virtual convention, September 14th through 16th. You can find more information by visiting canr.msu.edu. That's canr.msu.edu. Julia, Dr. Latimore, thank you both for joining us today.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. We'll take a break now on the Megacast. On the other side, we'll continue on with more news and information affecting you right here in the state of Michigan. We'll talk about something that affects eventually all of us, and that is estate planning. That's up next. You're watching and listening to the Megacast.
Can I ask you a question? Why do you want to get the COVID-19 vaccine?
I don't like getting sick. The virus will die. It will be easy to not catch it. Keep my family safe and keep playing soccer because I love being vaccinated.
What's your hope for everyone?
I hope everybody gets the vaccine to keep safe and strong. Be happy, having fun everywhere. Everyone stay safe and hope you get the vaccine. I'm feeling good.
Let's savor these moments. Made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the dining out going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
Connect with local leaders, philanthropists, and more. The Greater West Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce presents the 2022 Leadership Breakfast. Join the Chamber for a morning of insight with guest speaker Laura Graneman, with the whole event emceed by Fox 2 News anchor Roop Raj. Join your local businesses at the Wabeat Country Club September 13th at 8:30 a.m. Order your tickets by September 6th at westbloomfieldchamber.com/breakfast. We'll see you there.
Let's whoop it up for these moments. Made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the cheering going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. In the face of COVID-19, staying healthy is important. And now the same is true as we face the flu. Influenza has the potential to infect millions, putting lives and the healthcare system at risk. Fortunately, it's easy to protect yourself. The flu vaccine is safe and effective, and with COVID-19 still spreading, it's essential. To see how you can hit this virus head-on, visit michigan.gov/flu.
Welcome back to the Megacast, our live daily 1-hour TV, radio, and streaming show about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. Learn more about the program by visiting civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you'll find information on our vast network of TV, radio, and web outlets joining us from all across the Great Lakes state. Well, whether we are young or old, whether we are healthy or unfortunately, maybe on our way out from this great life of ours, we all have an opportunity to plan for our future and help those that may come after us organize our affairs after we are gone. That takes estate planning, and joining us now is attorney Susan Strunk, who is an expert in this area, to talk to us more about what we can do, what we should do to plan, and when that planning should start. Susan, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Tyler.
Appreciate having you on. So we've had some recent discussions with financial advisors and other financial experts about a number of topics, especially in today's economy, and then also just seeing in recent weeks, especially here in Oakland County, the impact of some tragic deaths of people that were in the community. And that brings up the topic of estate planning, which for so many is something that they focus on maybe later on in life or after they have kids. But in a general sense, Susan, who should be focusing on estate planning and when should that focus begin?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, Tyler. I would say as early as the age of 18, you could start to set up some documents for yourself. Something that maybe I would recommend for an 18-year-old would be to get some powers of attorney in place. Those would be financial powers of attorney, healthcare powers of attorney. These are documents that if something were to happen to you during your lifetime and you were seen unable to make medical or financial decisions for yourself, you would assign a patient advocate or an attorney in fact to make those decisions for you, and they would follow the instructions that you set forth in your document. I think a common misconception with powers of attorney are that there's any sort of effect after you pass. That's not the case. They're only effective while you're living. So these kind of things come into play when we least expect them, when you're in a car crash and you become into a coma or something of that matter. So it sort of helps your family out in a very difficult time of their life and your life, and it doesn't leave people scattering to try to figure out what you might have wanted. A lot of clients say, pull the plug, not pull the plug. We put it in much more precise terms, but those are sort of the types of decisions that you make long before that moment of need happens. And that's sort of something that I would recommend to maybe a young person that's thinking, I don't really have much, and that's another thing. I think there's a myth that you have to have a lot of money to go to see someone or get some estate planning documents set in place. It's not the case. When you pass, you can't take it with you when you go. So one of two things will happen. You will have either set up during your lifetime either a will or a trust, which when you pass away, the terms of those documents go into place and you either have someone, a personal representative or a trustee, carry out your wishes. If you haven't prepared those documents, your things are subject to the law of intestate succession. And for some people, that actually might be all right because the legislator has come up with a set of statutes that says if you die, your property goes to this person. And it sort of goes down. It's something called the table of consanguinity. But in today's modern world, where we are maybe getting further and further away from it making sense for your house and your money and your stocks to go to a next of kin, that's also another reason why it makes sense to get a plan. Are you not married? Maybe it makes sense to be in a domestic relationship, or maybe it's a blended family. We're seeing that a lot with older individuals as they near end of life. And I would just really recommend people of blended families to have their documents set forth. Come meet with me or anyone and have those documents written, have them signed, have it very clear what happened at the end, because we're seeing a lot now. We have adult children from, marriages sort of coming forth, and it's sort of the oldest flaw in the book as far as greed, and it also stems from very, complicated familial issues that sometimes come out decades and decades later. Mom left me out, or something, and sort of, you see this rogue child maybe wreak havoc on the estate or really cause people a lot of despair. And also sort of speaking in another way of who should have the estate plan, people with young children. If you pass, who determines who your legal guardian is? A judge. A judge will decide that, unless you have set forth in a will who you want to be the legal guardian of your children. That's also another reason people with minor children sometimes are interested in a revocable living trust. And perhaps we could talk about trusts on another time, that we could maybe talk about the ins and outs of trusts. But one of the really good things about trusts are, say you have a 5-year-old. Well, if something were to happen to you, the money set aside for that 5-year-old would be under the custodian of whoever you set forth in a will or something in that matter. But when they turn 18, if you only had a will, that money hits their hand. I would say 99.9% of my clients are not comfortable with that. And especially considering the fact that if that's happening, the reality may be that 18-year-old has lost both parents. So we're not sure what sort of path the child might go down out of despair, or they might, all sorts of things can happen. And we sort of, when we're doing estate planning, we're planning for those unknowns. So we're planning for the worst case scenario. But with a trust, you can dictate what age the child would receive money. For example, when they're 18, maybe they get 20% of the money that you have set aside. When they're 25, they get half. And when they're 30, they would get 100%. Those are some common distribution ages. So that's really a great benefit of having a trust. And then, a problem with a trust, a lot of times people don't fund it. It is a little more legwork. Properly retitling certain assets into the trust. The trust is a big, maybe, a pot or a pitcher of water. And if you just leave it empty, you just have this great vessel with none of your assets in it. It's useless. So my clients, we don't have that issue, because I really do help and make sure that all of their assets are properly funded into that trust. But I can't know if they will die with the $1 million lottery ticket in their hands. That's always the joke that we use is, sometimes things get left out. And in that case, if there was something left out of a trust, you're going to be, your estate will be subject to probate. And I'm approaching again another topic that could be easily another 15-minute session, but and going into probate is not the worst thing. Basically, it's a judge overseeing the distribution of your estate, and it can be as formal or informal as the beneficiaries and the personal representatives see fit. You could have celebrities you hear that go through probate court, but you can also have a single widow that just had a home that she had not put into a trust, or she didn't transfer via a deed or something of that matter. So we're seeing all sorts of estates that can be in probate. And, there are a couple benefits of probate. Some of them are, there's sort of a finite start and end date. So if there are some creditors, there's a bunch of procedures that occur, and once those procedures and once certain deadlines are met, creditors are barred from making further claims of the estate. So it does give people peace of mind. So maybe for larger estates, and if there's a lot of unknown creditors or known creditors, it sort of does give beneficiaries and personal representatives that peace of mind. But some of the negatives are it takes many months. There's statutory requirement of how long the probate has to be open. There are many documents that need to be filled out. There's just a lot of more paperwork involved, where I would say 9 times out of 10, the costs incurred and the extra year of having to work with an attorney or try to do it yourself is not worth the cost that you, as as you're sort of looking at your estate, if you just make those decisions now, do that planning now, and have a system set in place, it's a lot more effective.
So, Susan, where should somebody start as they're preparing to go through the process of writing a will or of crafting a will with an attorney or a counselor? What should they have prepared? What are some key points that they should be preparing before they start that conversation or as they are preparing and writing their will, even if it's something like Michigan's statutory will?
Right. Michigan statutory will. I'm really glad you brought that up. That is a free option for someone if the cost is prohibitive, where you can accomplish those goals of deciding who you want for your guardian. Some of the choices that you need to be thinking about is who are you going to task with administering your estate when you pass. Traditionally, if you have a spouse, they're usually the first choice. Oftentimes we see siblings or children that are adults would be choices, cousins, stuff like that. And I think that that discussion needs to happen before you draft your will. I think you need to check in with that person and ask them if they think at this time that they would be up to that task when and if it occurs. And you have to have a few backups in mind if someone's unwilling or unable to act. And usually I suggest clients have at least about 3 people in mind for that role. And then, of course, the obvious, I suppose, of who's going to get the money, who's going to get the engagement ring, who's going to get the car, who's going to get the home, all of those sorts of things. And typically when you meet with an attorney, they will probably have some sort of questionnaire that they have drafted. And I find it effective to have clients fill out the questionnaire and then we come and we have the discussion and we go over the answers. And then at that point is when I can really tailor my advice and say, I'm not sure about this person's age or, this person's financial acumen. And maybe I would select different individuals or maybe I would select different distribution tables. That's sort of where we have that discussion of what you want versus what I would recommend, and we can come out with an excellent plan that is ironclad.
A little bit of work now, a little bit of stress maybe now can do a lot of wonders for those that may be dealing with your finances, your assets, and what happens with your life after your life later on. So Susan, we appreciate your time. Anything else that would be important for our audience to consider in regards to estate planning today before we let you go?
I would just mention really quick that I have been using ladybird deeds a lot for individuals where maybe their home is their largest asset. And some of the benefits of that are if, for example, you would like to leave your home to a child, an adult child, you can draft something. It's called an enhanced life estate deed. And Michigan and Florida are the only states that allow for these types of deeds. You can draft a deed that says, it gives you so much control over your property, unlike a typical quitclaim deed or a warranty deed, where if I draft that deed and I put my child on it, they become the part owner of my property as soon as I go and record it. So that is a problem as far as you don't know if your children will have a creditor in the future. And then when you want to go sell that property, let's say you and your child have a disagreement at some point, they have to sign the deed to allow you to sell your property. And most people are not comfortable with that. So the ladybird deed is something that says you have all of this control while you're living. And if you don't sell or mortgage or reconvey the property before you pass, on the moment of your death, they would receive it. So there's a whole host of benefits to that. There's also some other step up in tax basis benefits. And I guess I would just advise people, if your home is one of your largest assets and you haven't given consideration of what's going to happen to it when you pass, I would recommend that you contact an attorney and ask them whether they think a ladybird deed is right for you.
Susan, appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Tyler.
Appreciate it. More information can be found and to get in contact with Susan and others at the Monahan PC about estate planning and other affairs, MonahanPC.com. That's MonahanPC.com for more information. Moving on from estate planning to travel, some fun things to talk about to finish off this edition of the Megacast. Joining us now from Traverse City is the Public Relations Manager of Traverse City Tourism, Mike Kent, back with us again on the Megacast. Mike, thanks for joining us today.
Hey, it's always my pleasure. Good to talk to you.
Good to talk to you as well. So we're in an interesting time of the year where we're getting a little bit cooler, a little less humid, but still nice, sunny and warm here in the state of Michigan. That means it still is a great time to go to Traverse City and spend some time there in a great city and have a lot of fun. What can people do at this time of the year as we're heading into the end of the summer? We're in the dog days of summer and heading into fall in Traverse City.
Yeah, still a lot of summer left. This really is my favorite time of the year. The weather, as you mentioned, is glorious. I know I had a call from my brother over the weekend in California, and he was hitting at 100, and we were sitting, in the lower 70s, and just felt refreshing and wonderful outside. A lot of people at the beaches and going swimming and that type of thing. So everything that is summer is out there, but yet there is more. I mean, yes, we are getting into a change of season. We are in, a big thing that's been happening here in the last few years really has been agritourism, with people giving their attention to what goes on in the preparation of their food. So whether it's going on tours of cherry farms or whatever, well, now we start seeing the fruits of their labor. So we start seeing a lot of farmers markets, and I know you've got them in the Detroit area too, but they pop up all over the place, whether it's in Traverse City on both Wednesdays and Saturdays, or, we've got them in Benzonia, we've got them in Leelanau County. And you see just the freshness of the fruits and vegetables. And I know my wife absolutely loves it. She makes, jam out of everything, whether it's, cherries or blueberries or strawberries. She went out with our grandson picking strawberries and made preserves out of that, and it's wonderful. So there is a freshness that is here. And yes, quite frankly, this time of year and going into September, there's a lot of sunshine, there's a lot of perfect weather. And we saw that over the weekend. I was at a wedding over the weekend, and oh my goodness, I saw this glorious sunset. And it was right next to a harbor. So you had all these boats beautifully lit up. A lot going on. So with everything outdoors, but then we also have some events coming up too. We've got Ironman that's taking place on September 11th over in Frankfurt. Second time it's going to be in the Frankfurt area. And it was a huge success and huge draw last year. It had been held in Traverse City for a number of years. The first time we moved it to Frankfurt, and it was so well received by the community, the locals, and the visitors alike, who just had an absolute blast with, it's essentially a triathlon, and huge crowds that turned out for that. So a lot of special events that are going on. A lot of our wineries, for example, are having wine tasting with meals and pairings with local fresh food. You have got restaurants up here that are farm to table, like Farm Club. I think we've talked about that before, if I recall correctly. And, it's fresh when you can see the vegetables growing right out, literally past the table that you're at. You can see that. So this is a fun time of year. This is, some people can't make it because they're getting ready to take their kids to school or getting ready for back to school. But boy, those who can travel up here, whether it's on the weekend or especially during the week, this really is a glorious time of year.
It is. It's a great place to go for a little bit of everything. You have so many different areas of interest that can be covered in Traverse City all throughout different times of the year. And you mentioned just even in neighboring areas, you have so many different things that you can do in the Traverse City area and in the city proper in the summer and beyond. One of the favorites as you head into more of the fall side of the year is we're just 2 weeks away at this point from Labor Day, when of course there's the annual Mackinac Bridge Labor Day walk. It's coming up very shortly. How is the anticipation for that going at this time, and the planning and finishing of that, and getting ready in Traverse City to participate in one of these great Northern Michigan traditions?
It's interesting that you bring that up. That's really outside of our area, but it's really not. When the people come from the Detroit area, they think of up north. They think of Traverse City as up north. So that's all inclusive of everything. And Petoskey and Charlevoix. And so, we collaborate with them. We collaborate with Mackinac Island, that type of thing. So there will be a lot of people that'll come to Traverse City and take the hour and a half drive up to the bridge and do the bridge walk. And they've had to make changes over the last couple of years, in part because of security and in part because of COVID. But it's great to see them back, and it's great to see the people that come up to northern Michigan. And I know I've done that walk a number of times with my family. It's just a lot of fun. How often do you get to walk on the Mackinac Bridge when it's closed to pedestrian traffic every other day of the year? And so it's unique to be able to stand on the bridge and look down on the grate and see hundreds of feet below you the Straits of Mackinac. And then you look above you and you see the north and the south towers. The kids absolutely love it, and I know they've had some changes on direction. You want to make you don't want to show up at the last minute. You want to make sure you get either to St. Ignace or Mackinac City well in advance of when you plan to cross. And they do have set times where if you haven't started your cross across the Mackinac Bridge, then you're not going to be allowed to go. So it requires a little bit of planning, well worth it, especially a wonderful family event. And yes, we do get people that stop here in Traverse City, either going up there or coming down. It is a wonderful annual tradition.
We're joined by Mike Canty, is the public relations manager for Traverse City Tourism, joining us on the Megacast. More information on Traverse City Tourism, all the great things happening in Traverse City and the local area there all throughout the year can be found at traversecity.com. Traversecity.com is your place to go to find all this different information, including places to stay, certain events you can attend, and things coming up in Traverse City and cool things going on in the area all throughout the year. Again, traversecity.com is the website for that. In terms of this summer, how has it been for the tourism industry and the affected industries affected by tourism in the Traverse City area, especially considering, well, last summer we were still getting out and about, and despite COVID-19, it was a different time. This summer, it seemed like people were much more comfortable with it. There seemed to be a lot more of a relaxed demeanor going into travel in the state of Michigan. How did that affect Traverse City?
There's a lot of enthusiasm with travel. We have talked, I think, last time about the pent-up demand. And we've been watching the numbers pretty closely. What we can say is, the travel has come back. It's not back to pre-pandemic levels. Part of that is a situation of making sure that the hotels and that, excuse me, have the staffing available to them. The other part simply is, there's so much that's up in the air. So, yes, a lot of our festivals were back. Cherry Festival is back in full swing. The film festival is back in full swing. The numbers were slightly down, and we have a ways to go to recover from the pandemic. We're not there yet. It was still a very good year. What we're hearing from both our hotel properties and our affiliated members, so a lot of the wineries and the restaurants and that, is that overall it has been a great summer. We still have more to go, and that's one of the big things that we emphasize is, this used to be just a summer season here in Traverse City. It's not anymore. It's a year-round season. So we're heading into the fall colors, and we'll have a lot of people that will show up and do the M22 drive or Old Mission Peninsula drive and just see the fall colors. Always great to see. Wintertime, we got downhill skiing and snowmobiling and cross-country skiing and winter and snowshoeing. A lot of activity going on there. In the spring times, we got the spring blossoms when the cherry trees all come alive with the blossoms. Bottom line is good year. Every time I go downtown, and we're just a block from downtown, so I get there on a regular basis, a lot of crowds, a lot of interest in whether it's shopping downtown or attending, one of the many events that we have, a lot of interest in that. But we're not fully recovered. From what I'm seeing from numbers around the state, I think that's true. Nearly every other community in the state of Michigan we're probably faring better than most, and a lot of it is because we're not as heavily dependent upon convention traffic or meetings, that type of thing. We have plenty of it up here, but not like some of the other cities in the state. A lot of ours is leisure travel, and this is, as we've talked before, it's a beautiful area, and so this becomes a priority for people. They've come up here for generations, and they want their kids to be exposed to Traverse City also. So we see a lot of that.
Mike, we're heading into the fall season. One of the hallmarks of fall in Michigan, and one of the hallmarks of fall travel, especially in Michigan, is people that like to explore the foliage all throughout the state of Michigan. And Traverse City, if people want to go a little bit further north in the state of Michigan and explore some of the foliage, maybe before the southern parts of the state start to see that, when can they expect to usually throughout the time of the year to see Traverse City start to change colors and explore the city during that time of the year?
It's always tricky because it's so dependent upon the weather, and it's so dependent on how hot it is and how much rain you get. I can tell you that just driving around northern Michigan, and I drove between here and the Petoskey area over the weekend, and you can already start to see a little tinge of color on the trees. So it's happening now, and that's not unusual. Mid-August, you start seeing those tinges. When will you see it in full bore? Usually the end of September, the beginning of October. Again, it's so dependent on the weather. And you already talked about the website. We keep track of the fall colors and the spring blossoms. So traversity.com is a good place to see how things are changing and when is a good time to head on up here. The reality is, anytime between now and mid-October, it's well worth the trip. Whether it's the fall colors or, as I said, the transition in season, when you still have plenty of blue skies and plenty of sunshine, not as much rain that you might see in other parts of the year, and hopefully no snow for a while. We can wait till the winter months for the snow to show up.
We're joined by Mike Canty, Public Relations Manager for Traverse City Tourism, joining us on the Megacast. More information on everything happening in Traverse City can be found at traversity.com, traversity.com for more information. Mike, just another couple minutes with you before we'll say goodbye today. Anything else that people should be keeping an eye out for, or maybe mark their calendars for coming up in Traverse City?
Well, let's talk about some of the events. I got my handy dandy little cheat sheet here, if you don't mind me making reference to that. Okay, a couple of things. I know last time we talked about the new Boardman Loop Trail. Trail that goes around the lake that's in Traverse City. They're having a ribbon cutting on that on the 19th. So that's just in a couple of days. You've got in Frankfurt, you've got the Collector Car Show on the 20th of this month. Polka Fest. Yeah, Polka Fest. You got to love it. I'm part Polish, so I get it. Yes. That's in Cedar on the 25th. We already talked about Ironman. That's on September 11th. And you know what, and I think we talked about this a little bit before, but we talked about being able to take the chairlift up at Crystal Mountain and take down 6 different bike rides. Well, when we start getting into the colors, they also have that chairlift to be able to go up to the top of the mountain and see the fall colors. And it's really a unique perspective because you see this long, vast array of colors in front of you, and it's a really fun thing to do. And then just quickly, I want to mention that September 28th is Pride Week in the Traverse City area. And that's an event that, oh my goodness, when they first started like a Pride March, there would be like a couple hundred people that showed up for it. Last time, now that was pre-pandemic, I think they had 6,000 people in the Pride March. So a lot of activities that are surrounding around that too. So the week of September 28th is when that's going on. A lot of activities going on. We're not done with summer yet. And this transition into fall, just gorgeous area to come to the Traverse City area.
It's always a good time up in Traverse City. Mike, appreciate your time. Thanks.
Oh, my pleasure.
TraverseCity.com for more information. That's TraverseCity.com. to find more info. That is going to do it for this edition of the Megacast. Wow, that hour flies by really quick when it's the only hour of the show. That's our new format, 1 hour every day, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. until 11 a.m. Throughout our network, you can keep up to date on everything that we're doing and our partners in doing this program by visiting civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you'll find all of our full programs and each interview on demand as well. While you're on our website at civiccentertv.com, head over to our local news page to keep up to date on everything making headlines in the Great Lakes state, as well as up-to-date info on COVID-19 from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, at the state level, at the federal level from the CDC, and at the local level in Oakland County from the Oakland County Health Division. That does it for today's edition of the Megacast. We'll return tomorrow with a new episode.